Welcome to the Good Success Podcast. We have an amazing show scheduled for you today, but before we get started, let's have a word from our sponsors. Radius Renovation Group is a full-service construction management solution for investors of single-family and small multifamily investors in 25 states. Whether you own one property or hundreds in different states, the goal is to be your one-stop shop for all your construction needs, to increase property values, and to give you a positive and profitable outcome. Using their 8-step process, Radius will walk the project, complete a line-by-line scope of work and estimate, schedule work with licensed and Radius certified contractors, manage the project and contractors, pay the contractors as work is completed, provide quality control throughout the project, and when the project is complete, do a final inspection. Clients are provided with login access to Radius's cloud-based project management platform to view work schedules and updated photos of each job. There is even the ability to directly message the project manager. Radius only works with real estate investors, so they speak your language and understand your needs, from project timing to investor-friendly pricing. If you're an investor who is done trying to manage contractors and rehabs on your own, it might be time to consider having Radius as your partner. To put their expertise to work for you today, visit the Radius website at www.radiusreno.com or call them right now at 417-730-9777. And now, back to the Good Success Podcast.
And a lot of times, we don't even know what's holding us back because we don't know what our purpose is.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what your purpose is, if you can't answer number one, you can't answer number two.
Maybe you flip it and say, what's holding me back from finding my purpose?
Well, yeah, maybe you need to do that too. That's absolutely true. So you might need to figure out what that is. And whenever you find out what is holding you back, I'd ask yourself, well, why is that holding you back?
Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Culler, Tom Olson, president of Good Success, sitting right next to me here. And Tom has an awesome concept here that we're going to talk about today. So if you guys didn't know, we are going to be coming out with a lot more episodes of just me interviewing Tom and having Tom talk about specific topics. We had a lot of feedback from people saying that they wanted more of this. So we're going to give it to you because we give the people what they want. So Tom, what's going on? How's your day been?
It's been good. It's been really good. So this year, I set out a mission this year to mentor 4 people for free this year. I don't want to get paid for it. I'm not trying to make any, it wasn't a big, it was just one of my top 25 personal goals I wanted to do at the beginning of the year. And I'm getting a lot of people and a lot of requests now. All of a sudden, I'm not sure how word got out.
You got a line out the door.
Yeah.
I told 2 people, so I didn't tell a lot of people.
Yeah, I think both those people came, Josh, and okay. I think that they told
they
2
told
people
other people.
Each.
Okay.
So anyway, and I mean, and honestly, we have a place for that. Really, that. I believe the mastermind is a better format to be mentored in, because you can get perspectives from many different people instead of just one person. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to do a podcast at some point about when you make a big decision in your life, it should never just come, and you go get advice about it. You should never just go to people that are going to give you the answer that you want. You should be going to a multitude of different perspectives and different people. But at the end of the day, you want people in your life that are giving you advice that is not just business sound and business savvy and the things of this world, mm-hmm. but is going to give you spiritual advice too. And because what's best for you, what's best for Josh, isn't always going to be what's best for Tom, or what's best for Max, or best for a different person. So, so I think a lot of mentoring has to happen within their own 2 ears. And I think a lot of people need to help themselves just as much as they can get advice. I think it's important to go get advice. But I've come up with a list of 30 questions. I'm probably actually going to turn into a booklet, so you're going to get it first here. But I believe if you'll write down these questions and you actually answer them yourself, I think you'd be shocked. I answer these questions almost every year about my own self, and I just kind of go through this list and try to really nail down this. And I think eventually I'd even like to create a good success growth guide where even a lot of these questions you're asking yourself on a daily basis, and you're kind of really getting in, to helping you fulfill your purpose and your potential in that every single day. So that's kind of what we got today. We're going to do probably part 1 and part 2, and we're going to kind of start sharing. We're going to start sharing principles for good success, and that's kind of be some of the ways in the format in which we do some of these podcasts. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Love to hear your feedback. Text me, Facebook message me, somehow get to me and let me know what you guys think, and if there's a certain topic that you'd like to hear talked about. I know I did my top 50 books one time, and I still have people tell me this is on Tom's top 50 books. So it's really cool to do things like that and put myself out there though. So I'm gonna put myself out there for you guys. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited about this. Well, this next 2 episodes, because we're going to split this into part 1, part 2, because we do want to make sure that we're going deep into these questions. Tom read these to me before we actually started recording. And even as he was reading them, I'm like, that's a good question. That's a good question. These are questions that you definitely need to answer on I think yearly basis, absolutely, but maybe even more frequently if you're struggling with answering these questions very directly. So as we're going through this podcast, if you're driving, if you're somewhere where you're listening to the podcast and you can't write stuff down, think about these questions in your head, and then when you go back to a place where you can actually sit down and write these questions down. Like Tom mentioned, we might turn this into a workbook, but this is still good to answer these questions right here on the podcast. And so if you're driving, if you're in a place where you can't write, think about them in your head and think about the way you're going to answer them. If you have a problem with answering one of the questions, then that might be something that you need to dissect a little bit and dive deeper into. So I'm excited about this. We're going to split this up into part 1, part 2. So be on the lookout for part 2. Obviously, this is part 1. So I'm excited about it. So 30 questions to ask yourself for good success. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Tom's giving the 5. So 5 stars if you are on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you head over there. Leave us a review because that definitely helps out our show. And then if you're not if you're not all about going to these podcast platforms, we have a mobile app. So we have an actual official Good Success app. All you have to do is go to the Apple App Store or Google Play Store, search Good Success, and you'll find it there as Tom fumbles around and tries to find it.
My kid's got so many games on here. We were on vacation last week. He's got so many games. I'm like, what in the world? So
there it is. So
right there at the bottom, you just click there.
Yep.
And
so
boom, it pops up.
Beautiful app. So it's got our branding all over it, so you cannot miss it.
What is Legacy? Episode 168 right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boom.
It's going to be good. So excited about that. So just head over to your app store, whether you're on Android or iPhone, and you'll find it there. Just search Good Success. You'll see our branding all over it, so you can't miss it. So make sure you take advantage of that. And then the Good Success Mastermind next event is coming up quickly in May in Miami. So it's going to be awesome. May 14 through 18, I believe, are the dates. And it's going to be absolutely fantastic. To learn more about it, go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind. You'll fill out an application there, and then you'll get on a phone call with Tom. And then we talk to you on the phone because that's like our pre-screening because of the culture of the people that we have in the group is actually absolutely fantastic. So, Tom, want to talk about it for a second?
So the mastermind, this is the new format. So the new format, we have 2 groups. One group will come in on the 14th, 15th, and 16th for this next group, for this next mastermind. The next group will come in on the 16th. So the 16th, everybody is together. That middle day is a fun day. We're actually going to go on a boat ride, which has been sponsored. We are going to have some panels. We have some keynote speeches that are going to happen that day. And we're going to give away the charity award at this next mastermind. So we've given an award away.
I wonder who's getting it.
Exactly. Make sure you're there. So we give away the charity award for one of our Good Success Mastermind members who we think best exemplifies that core value. And I'm really excited for the person who won this year. Maybe he's not the most vocal, not the person that you might normally think, but like we've seen it in him and we really believe in him. We're really excited to present this to him. And then the other 2 days are really, it's a full day of masterminding. If you've never read the book Think and Grow Rich, I highly recommend going and reading that book. But it's putting yourself in a room with people that you believe, like, and trust, that you think are the fewer betters, that you believe that are going to 1,000x your business. Not 10x, no. We're talking about 1,000x, right?
Yeah.
So
we're taking Grant Cardone.
Yeah,
to the
there you
bank
go.
On this one.
Yes, we're just forget the 10x. The Bible talks about 100-fold. So we should be talking about much better, bigger numbers than 10x.
GC
right?
is gonna call us out on this.
Exactly, big time. Anyways, I really believe that the difference between the people that think they know what they're doing and the people that really know what they're doing. Number one, the people that think they know what they're doing think they know what they're doing. And that's a problem because it can be very dangerous. And then number two, the people that don't know that do know what they're doing are always, always, always looking for a better way. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you are like the president of the United States or like Apple is always looking for a better way to do Apple,
Innovation,
right? Google is always looking for a better way to do Google. Amazon's always looking for a better. Why is that? Because they're the best. So and that's what I believe that a mastermind like this is all about. It's like the fewer betters that you can hang around. And if you're struggling with people that you can talk to, that you can like, that you can trust, you can bring bigger issues to, and trust that they're not just going to solve it for their best interest. They're not there just to tantalize you with something that they want to sell you. They're there with a real concern for your well-being. And this last mastermind, I had somebody come up to me. He's like, you know what, Tom? I don't get to have these kind of conversations, in my neck of the woods. I've got to go to a place like this that I feel safe, that I can ask these questions that are going around in my head. And I'm struggling with some things, and I really need help. And that's what the mastermind's all about. So if you're a Christian entrepreneur, Christian business man or woman that is looking for an opportunity, looking for a place that you can feel safe in, that you think that people are going to talk to and talk about and talk with you and be there with you in that collaborative group. And not only that, I mean, the deals that are happening in our group right now is amazing. You'll get deals. You'll have network of networks is there. We're going to do a Power of the Mastermind podcast, aren't we? I should just stop because I have a lot of things that the Power of the Mastermind really is. So anyways, goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Fill out the application if you think you qualify. I am looking for the fewer betters for this, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the Community Go-Giver event. So that's the next event that we've got is June 26, 27, 28. And that's happening right here in our office in Gary, Indiana. So communitygogiver.com is where you can purchase your tickets. But Tom, give us a brief summary of the Community Go-Giver event. What can people expect?
So the Community Go-Giver event, I'm going to talk a little bit about the numbers. So the numbers right now in Gary, Indiana, we are starting to sell active turnkey and turnkey rentals in Gary, Indiana. I wouldn't have done that 3 years ago, and I'll tell you why. It used to take 2 to 3 months to get a house rented. Now, I mean, it's like 2 days. It's like 2 weeks. It's almost just the same as any other area. I firmly believe in the numbers in Gary right now, and I couldn't say that 3 years ago. I really firmly believe in the numbers, and I believe that you will get a much better return than you will in much of the country. And I've always been told, put yourself in the way or in the front of economic booms or things that are changing. Find out where people are moving to, or find out where jobs are going to. Put yourself in the middle of that, and then just turn around and hope that you succeed, or hope that you just wait for it to happen, basically.
Be the first to the blueberry bush.
Right. So, no, it's not even that, because if you think about it, where did the Rockefellers make all their money? The Rockefellers made all their money not in what people think. They made their money in the gold rush, okay? And they didn't make their money getting gold. They weren't the first to the gold. What they did is they went and they set shop up there, and they said, okay, people are coming here. We need to sell stuff to them.
Yeah, they have a need.
There's a need. It's coming. We need to sell stuff to them. And that's pretty much like what we're doing here in Gary, Indiana. Like, I know the need is coming, and it hasn't been here the way it was previously, but now it's coming. And I've been kind of like seeing this happen for like the last 3 years, and now we're really seeing it happen.
Got it.
And so Gary, Indiana, I think is a good place to put your money. And like I said, I couldn't say that 3 years ago and have good conscience, but today I really honestly believe that. And I've gone first. I've gone there first. I've put my own money and my own skin and my own deals and done. I think we've probably done 50, 60 deals in the last year in Gary, Indiana alone, personally, and try to put myself out there first before I'm bringing other investors, and I'm proving the model, and it is proven. It is really amazing how much you can actually get for rent, and how much. And people used to say the turnover is so much worse, and it's not as bad as it used to be. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you that it's probably worse than like your B-class neighborhoods, your Cherville, your Highland. It's probably gonna be a little bit your Crown Points or Munster, maybe a little bit more turnover, maybe. So we just do that in our performance. We add a couple extra percentage points for vacancy, a couple extra percentage points for maintenance, and the numbers really do work. We're seeing 10-12% real cap rates, and we're seeing real good returns long term. And I'm seeing the prices. Not the other piece of this is in Gary, Indiana. Right now, we're seeing an area of Tolston, Indiana, Tolston and Gary, where the prices have just shot up. And I can show you MLS data now where no house has sold over $45,000 for 10, 12 years, and now all of a sudden, out of the blue, we're seeing $115,000, even $150,000. A house just sold for $150,000. Wow. In Tolston, Gary. So there's areas like that in Gary, Indiana, and I really think that you ought to come here and see what the opportunity really can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So communitygogiver.com is where you can pick your tickets up, but we are selling out at 80 seats. So if you want to be here for that, make sure you take advantage of the tickets now, because once we hit 80, we're capping it. Can't take any more people. So don't miss out on that. Happening right here in our office in Gary, Indiana. So communitygogiver.com is where you can pick up your tickets now. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. I'm excited to have Tom Olson on the show today, right? So this isn't an interview, but we got a Tom. This is the Tom show today. So I'm excited about this. 30 questions to ask yourself for good success, but this is part 1, so we're going to split it down the middle. We're going to do the first 15 questions, and like I said earlier in the show, if you are driving, if you are somewhere working out or whatever where you can't write these questions down, try to answer them in your head. If you have a hard time answering these questions in your head, those are questions that you need to definitely write down when you get back to your office or whatever, and dissect that even more and answer these questions. So, Tom, let's just go ahead and jump into it. I'm excited about this. Let's do
this. I'm actually really excited about this too. This morning before we got on, I was kind of like, I've got about 30 different podcasts I could do, and I was kind of scrolling through my notes, and I'm like, you know what? This would be really good, Josh. So we're going to do this. So part 1, these are 30 questions that I think you ought to ask yourself. 30 questions to ask yourself for good success. So if you want to have good success, the right kind of success, if you want to do the right thing, if you want to help prioritize your time, ask yourself these 30 questions. And I believe by the time you're done asking yourself these 30 questions, if you'll write out the answers, don't just ask yourself the questions, but actually answer the questions for yourself. Write that question down and write down what you believe the answer is for yourself. And it might change over time. Sometimes these questions change. Sometimes the answers to these questions, I shouldn't say sometimes the questions change. The questions are probably the same, but sometimes the answers to these questions change. We have seasons in our life. Like, for instance, the very first question is, why were you placed on this earth? What is your purpose? And I honestly believe that sometimes our purposes change, and sometimes we don't know what our purpose is until a later time in our life. And we have a different purpose today than we might have tomorrow. And sometimes there's seasons in life. Right now, for instance, I have a 5-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, and I have a 13-year-old. My daughter just turned 13. She's a teenager. Can you believe that, Josh?
Yeah, you're old.
I am getting old, apparently. So, but one of my purposes in life right now is to train those children up in the way they should go, so when they are old, they will not depart from me, and to train them up in the admonition of Jesus, and to bring them up in church and teach them godly rules, and to leave a legacy to them that I want them to be able to pass, not just to have. I don't just want my second generation to have it. I want them to be able to pass it on to the next generation. So we have our 5 family rules. We have our things. But I think even bigger than that, why in the world was I placed on this earth? This is a question that is sombering, and I think we got to ask ourselves this over and over and over again. Why would God put me on this earth? And I think the answer always has to do because of you're supposed to love somebody. That's our purpose. I think our purpose is always charity. That's why it's our number one core value. The number one thing in my family's life is be ye kind. That's like the very first rule in our family, and that is basically charity or love. So what is your purpose? I believe my purpose on this earth is to glorify God by adding value to my communities. Like I kind of have to put it together. So what is your purpose? That's the first question I think everybody should ask. And I think, Josh, everybody should ask this question to themselves, like you said, yearly.
Yeah.
This should be a daily question. Like, what is my purpose for today?
Today, yeah.
Every day you ought to be asking yourself, what is that question? Good. What's the answer to that question? What is my purpose?
I love it.
Yes.
That's great.
Number one. That was
great.
Number two.
That's a hard-hitting question for number one.
It
I
is.
love
it. And honestly, like, a lot of times we don't know what our purpose is. We gotta and we have to understand we're a steward.
Yeah.
If you don't understand that you're a steward, you will never find God's purpose for your life because you'll think it's all about you.
I hope you've been enjoying this Good Success podcast, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Our next sponsor is Gary Harper at Sharper Business Solutions. Your business is a personal endeavor that you have poured your blood, sweat, and tears into, and they know that. Sharper Business Solutions is a full-service solution to help you scale your dream. Sharper Business Solution implements the Sharper process and other key systems, giving you the confidence that you need to have freedom and grow and scale your business. The Sharper team wants to come right alongside you and provide the resources needed for long-term growth and success. If you are looking to grow or scale your business, contact my friend and Good Success Mastermind member, Gary Harper, and his team to help you implement the Sharper process. You can schedule your free consultation today at sharperprocess.com. So go do it right now. Go to sharperprocess.com and schedule your free consultation with Gary and his team. Our next sponsor is Jerry Padilla from Prime Lending. Whether it's your first time buying a home or you're well adversed in the process, buying and refinancing a home can be an exciting and rewarding but sometimes challenging experience. At Prime Lending, we take the time to listen and work with you to find a home loan that fits your needs. If you're looking to refinance your loan, lower your interest rate, lower your monthly payments, shorten your term, or get cash for whatever reason you need, we have a solution for you. Prime Lending also has several options for renovation loans, so you can find what works best for you and your home project. Make sure you contact our good friend, Jerry Padilla, who is a senior loan officer and originator with Prime Lending and has over 11 years in the mortgage industry. You can learn more about Jerry and what Prime Lending has to offer you by visiting goodsuccess.com/prime lending. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/prime lending. And now, back to our show.
You think it's all about how can Tom Olson, come up with a great purpose or how can Josh Culler come up with a great purpose, and how can I be so awesome or so wonderful? And it's not all about that. I highly recommend if you're searching for how to figure out your purpose in life, I highly recommend a book called The Purpose Driven Life. And I think there's another great book called What Matters Most by the guy that wrote the planner, the McGuffey Planner, I think it was. But both those books, I think, really help me with my purpose on life, especially the purpose-driven life, and the Bible, of course. I definitely read that. Okay, so question number two. So once you've figured out your purpose, what is holding you back? And a lot of times, we don't even know what's holding us back because we don't know what our purpose is.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what your purpose is, if you can't answer number one, you can't answer number two.
Maybe you flip it and say, what's holding me back from finding my purpose?
Well, yeah, maybe you need to do that too. That's absolutely true. So you might need to figure out what that is. And whenever you find out what is holding you back, I'd ask yourself, well, why is that holding you back? It's always like these what, why, how questions that you've got to continually ask yourself. So what is your purpose? Why were you placed on this earth? And then what is holding you back from fulfilling that purpose? Once you figure out what that purpose is, what is it that's holding you back? And we get this in the mastermind sometimes, right? Well, what's holding you back? Why aren't you just doing it?
Yeah.
Why is that holding you back?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just what's between our heads, and we've got to find people and got to put ourselves in front of people or in front of books or in front of knowledge that we can help figure these things out. So number one, why were you placed on this earth? What's your purpose? Number two, what is holding you back from fulfilling this purpose? Number three, why is that holding you back? And I think that that's a really hard-hitting question sometimes for people if they'll really... And so sometimes people think, what's holding me back? It's money. I get this question all the time. I ask this question all the time to people. What is holding you back? Money. They always think it's money. And they don't realize that it's not money. It's never money. Money is never what's holding you back. So then I have to follow up this question with, well, why is that holding you back?
Yeah.
If it really is money, then just go figure out a way to go get more money. Money is easy. Money is the easy part. All right. So now we're going to kind of come out of the emotional. We're going to kind of go to the analytical.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So question number 4, are you in debt? And I believe that this is something that everybody should be asking themselves. Are you in debt? You should always be, if you've listened to Dave Ramsey, he says, get out of debt, get out of debt, get out. And I totally agree with him on that, 100%. So if you are in debt, how much? And I think this is something that you got to write down. Pull out those credit cards, pull out your bank statements, pull out your mortgage, pull out your bank loans for your cars or personal loans or student debt, whatever that is. What are you in debt and how much? You've got to answer that question. This goes for your business and this goes for your personal life, both of them. So how much are you in debt? It's something you have to figure out. After you figure out how much debt you're in, and I know I'm kind of going over through these kind of quick, but I think the questions themselves,
they should bring the value.
Really,
altogether,
the questions themselves. If you will just honestly answer the questions for yourself, you'll find that this podcast is honestly, and I'm not trying to praise myself about this, I'm really not, but I really believe this is a game changer, this is a life-changing podcast if you really listen to it. And if you'll take it to heart, if you'll answer the questions. So, are you in debt? If so, how much? Question number 5, what does your budget tell you that you need to live on each month? So go through every one of your expenses that you're spending that you need, so whatever it is, and what does that tell you that you need to live on? Everybody's like, I'm not making enough money. I'm not making enough money. I'm like, well, the very first thing I tell them is, well, have you done a budget? How much does your budget tell you that you need to make in order to live on every month?
And you're saying need, not
right,
want,
absolutely,
right?
Exactly. Okay. So what do you need to live on?
Yeah,
well, because and that there's the crust with the money problem most of the time. The problem with money problem is that we spend too much money. We just do. We live in America. We're spoiled brats, and we think that just because like the money's in the bank account that we can spend it when it's really already allocated to another bill. Right. And if you'll be disciplined, and you will write these things down and know this is how much money I have and this is how much money I need to spend on these items and this is what I need. It'll help you prioritize, because joy is found in the prioritize. Joy is found in the priorities. Growth is found in your priorities. Purpose is found in your priorities. All these things are found in the priorities, in the discipline. So what does your budget tell you need to live in? What does you add up all those real monthly expenses? So don't do. I think Dave Ramsey says maybe actually write down every penny you spend for a month. I think it's a great idea. That's good. But I think another exercise to do is actually write down what it is that you know you need, and then what it'll normally. And I'll tell you, for me, when I've experienced this with other people, 9 times out of 10. There's a light bulb that comes out, and almost every time the light bulb is I'm spending more money than I should.
Yeah.
It's always there. So if you don't have a budget, do not move on to this next step until you have a personal budget and a business budget. This is a big deal. Having a budget in your business, having a budget in your personal life is a very big deal. And even if you don't follow it, knowing what that is and kind of tracking it every so often, every month or so, is a very big deal if you really want to become successful. So if you really want to have good success, I honestly believe this is number 5. This is what you should do. Number 6, and some people could say this is number 1. Do this when it comes to money. In my opinion, this is one of the reasons why I will tell you I believe God will always bless me. Now, do I always believe that God's doing what I want him to do? No, absolutely not. Do I always think that God knows best? Yes. But I will tell you that this is an exercise that I have practiced since I was a teenager. And my next question is, do you give 10% of your income to God? And I really believe that if you're not, you should stop everything else that you're doing and you should do that first. That to me it is not. If I am a steward, if I really am a steward of everything that God's given me and everything I really have is because of God, then really the 10% is an investment.
Yeah.
It's not a God giving back to me. It's God saying, I will give you 100% if you will give me 10%. It's God's way of giving first, and he does expect his 10%. But think about it. Where else can you get a 1,000% return on your money? Isn't that what that is?
That's pretty good.
That's it. Not 100%, because 100% on 10% would be another 10%.
Yeah, right.
Right? It's 1,000% return on your money. So GC, you can go to your 10x and act like it's something awesome, but what God gives us is 1,000x.
Yeah.
Every penny that we get in our life is 1,000 times return of what He expects back.
So, quick question on that. So, do you believe that the 10% and the returns that you get is always money, or is it blessings? Is it other things outside of money?
Well, I talk about this when it comes to money, because money's what's easier to understand for most people.
Sure.
Most people can understand money, but it's the Bible says your increase. So 10% of all of your increase. So that's time, talents, and treasure. And that's why I think if you're a good singer, you got to be using it to sing for God. If you are good if you're an artist, you got to be using it for God. You at least 10% of that skill ought to be used for that. At least 10% of your time. So you think about time, and I think church can be counted in that 10% time. I think prayer time, giving of yourself time to other people, because God says, if you've done the less of me, you've done unto me. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways to give your time. I think time's actually the easiest one to give, especially if you're in the Bible and if you are reading, and if you are praying every day and you are going to church every week. God does expect 168 hours in a week or something like that. So it's 16 hours a week. I think that is fairly. It's easier to give for most people than 10% of their money for some reason.
Yeah.
But my question specifically for this is 10% of your income, money-wise, to God. But I do believe in 10% of all of your increase. It doesn't really matter what it is. The Bible actually uses the word increase. But most people just can think about money and they understand it better because it's just
more tangible.
It's very tangible,
Got it.
And I think it's very important though to put. I believe you should give more than 10%, honestly, if you really want what my belief is and what we practice. Yeah. And I believe anything over 10% is really where you're directing your heart. Money and time is where you direct your heart. You direct your heart with money and time. Your schedule and your checkbook will determine your destiny. Your schedule and your checkbook prove to everybody else what your priorities are. And that's something I challenge everybody to do. While we're getting into this, number 6 is, actually number 7 gets into that. I'm sorry. So why don't we just go to number 7? Number 7 is, what other ways are you giving of your time, talents, or treasure to God or others? So I forgot that was in there, Josh. So I guess it's a good thing you.
It's a leading question.
You led me down that path. But I think those 3 questions really are very important when it comes to blessing, God blessing you, and when it comes to having good success is what is your budget? If you don't have a budget, create your budget. Number 2 or number 6 in this list is, are you giving at least 10% of your income to God? And I am not a pastor. But I believe that my ministry, I believe that my purpose here on earth is just as important as my pastor's. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell my pastor this. I'll speak to pastors and I'll tell them my job on earth as a Christian business owner is just as important as that pastor's. I don't have the responsibility that the pastor has. I don't have to talk to God, but I have to talk to God in my responsibility. I don't have the flock, but I have a responsibility. In my opinion, it's very, very important. It's like your eyes, okay? What if your eyes wanted to be your hands? Okay. What if your eyes cried all day long because they couldn't be your hands? Mm-hmm. Your eyeballs can't pick up things. Your eyeballs can't type. Mm-hmm. Your eyeballs can't swing a hammer. Your eyeballs can't take a picture, right? But you need your eyeballs to do all those things. So it's the same thing. So just think about that, Josh. Your eyeballs need your hands. Your hands need your eyeballs. Pastors need the Christian businessmen. The Christian businessmen need the pastors. We need the missionaries. We need everybody in this world to do their part. Mm-hmm. A business needs an owner. A business needs, manager. A business needs a person doing the labor. A person needs different people, and the managers need to do labor. But and the owner needs to do labor. But
everybody has their part.
Right. Everybody has their part in the body. And I think it's very important if you're a Christian business person, and even if you're not a Christian business person, that you are giving 10% of your income to God, and you're also giving back your increase. And I believe that is a 10,000% return on your investment, because I believe that, because if it's yours, then you're not a steward. If it's yours, you're not a steward. If you're a steward, then somebody else is letting you borrow it. Mm-hmm. So you're letting you have the talent, and you're trying to use it so you can double it and give it back to the person that it belongs to. All right. So next question, I shouldn't say problem. Next question, number 8, is what is it that you think you need help with? And I kind of make that bold. You think. Because a lot of times when we think we need a problem, we think we need it solved, what we think the problem is really not the problem, right, Josh? You've seen that happen in the mastermind. Yeah. People get up there and I think my problem is this, and they're like 13 different people see the thing that's so obvious to everybody else.
They had it on the previous slide.
Right. Yeah. Like, that's your problem over there. Yeah. like what do you think but I think it's important to verbalize and be honest about what you think your problem is. And this should be an easy one. But all these things are just kind of getting through and helping you get through maybe a situation or fear maybe that's in your life that you need to conquer. All right, so number 8, what do you think your problem is? Number 9, what is your biggest challenge or opportunity? And sometimes these might be the same thing. They absolutely could be. But I think by just rephrasing the question a little bit, it might get a different answer out of you. And I just think it's important. Ask yourself these questions. What do you think your biggest challenge is, or your biggest opportunity? So your problem may not be your biggest challenge, or what you think you need help with may not be your biggest challenge, but it might be, or same thing with your opportunity. All right, number 10. I think this is something that came from the book, What Matters Most. This was a very, very good book. This is definitely in my top 10 of all-time books that I've ever read, is what are your roles and responsibilities that you have right now? And that you need to write down all your roles, in my opinion, whether it's a father, whether it's a husband, whether it's a business owner, whether everything in your life, anything in your business, and all of your things in your work, all of your roles and responsibilities. Where do you have responsibility, and what are those roles? I think those are very, very important to outline, because a lot of times we run and we don't give ourselves that much margin. We don't give ourselves a room to have a bad day or have something go wrong, because we have way too much going on. And I think it's important to actually write down all of those roles. And I think on the other time, sometimes we think we're so busy. Oh, I'm so busy. And then I write down everything I have to do, and I'm like, okay, I'm not that busy.
Not that busy.
So I think when you write these questions down and then write the answers down, it really starts putting your whole life into perspective, and I think it'll really help you. All right, so once you've figured out your roles and responsibilities, I think number 11 is, what are your priorities in your roles and responsibilities? Which roles trump other roles? In my opinion, I have to have the fact that I'm a Christian trump the fact that I'm a husband. But I have to have the fact that I'm a husband trump the fact that I'm a business owner. But I have to have the fact that I'm a business owner trump the fact that maybe I'm an investor. Like, I have all these roles and responsibilities that I have in my life, and you do too. And I think it's very, very important to outline these and to figure out which one's more important, scale of 1 to 10, or if you have like 50 roles, like which one do you have to. I don't care. You can't put two of them the same. Mm-hmm. You've got to have priorities in those roles and responsibilities. All right, number 12, and we've only got 4 left here. So number 12, what are your big goals in life? You know, anybody who knows me knows that I have these crazy, ridiculous goals. One is to give away $1 billion in my lifetime. And, you know, part of the way I think I'm going to do that, Josh, is I'm going to live to be 120. Because I think if I got more time and more money, you know how like compounding interest works? Yep. You know, like that's kind of what I'm thinking. If I can live to be a lot older than the average person lives, then hopefully I can give more than the average person can ever think about giving. Sense. So that means I got about 80 more years left.
You're just a baby right now. Then.
And if I just keep doubling if I just keep doubling my money with, the law of 72, any number divided by 72, that's like basically how many years it takes at that percentage interest rate to be able to double. So if you're getting 12% interest, for instance, it takes 6 years for that money to double. And that's kind of how I look at it. So if I have $100,000 now and it just doubles every 7 or 8 years, then that money turns into a lot of money over 80 years.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important lesson to learn too. If you got kids, one of the biggest gifts you can give, you can give your kids $1 million. Josh, you can give your kids $1 million.
I can.
Yes. Give them $1,000 when they're born. And if it earns, I think it's either 10 or 12%. If it earns 10 or 12% until the time they're 70, it'll be worth $1 million.
It's amazing.
No more money. So that's the power of compounding interest.
Oh, yeah.
So think about that. I think God made that law of compounding interest. He really did, with our growth patterns and our habits that we create. 1,000x, right? 1,000x.
1,000x, not 10x. 1,000x.
All right. So question number 12, what are your 2 big goals? I have 2 big goals: to flip the city of Gary, Indiana into a place where the culture has changed and the people want to move there, and instead of a place where people are moving away, which it was 3 or 4 years ago. And honestly, now we've probably already changed that, tipped that back to people moving to Gary, Indiana. So that's exciting. Mm-hmm. But now I'm changing culture, trying to figure out how to get more business to come to Gary, Indiana, and try to help the people in Gary, Indiana have a place to be proud of. So those are my 2 big goals in my life. Number 14. Number 13. Sorry. Why are these your big goals? Remember the what and the whys?
The what and the
very,
why.
Very important. If your why is big enough, your what will take care of itself. Yes. So why are these your 2 big goals? And I kind of think it always should go back to, is this going to glorify God? Is this something that I'm doing for me, or am I doing this for the right reason? Good success, in my opinion, is good people doing good works for a good amount of time, a good way. Like, do it the right way for a good amount of time. Like, that's what a good success person really is. And in order to do that, you got to ask yourself these questions. Why are these my big goals? Do I want a Lamborghini? Why do I want a Lamborghini? Do I want to live, in a $1 billion house or $10 million house, whatever? Why do I want to do that? Like, I have a dream, kind of like a selfish dream, to live on a lake someday. And I always ask myself, why? Why do I want to do that? Like, and I can't think of a good reason that my thing isn't just because of what I want. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't make that a priority because a lot of it has to do with what I want. And I feel like I always need to be constantly pushing that pride down in my own personal life. All right, so number 13, why are these your big goals? Number 14, this is kind of a long question, so I will say it a couple times. I'll just read it a couple times here. So what is your potential in your purpose this year? So 2019, what is your potential? How much of that purpose that you believe that God put you on this earth for can you reach this year? We all have a potential, but our habits and our discipline determine how much of that potential in that purpose we will achieve this year or next year or the year after. I only want to work with doers. So I kind of say this because of the people that I want to work with. Like I opened up this talk with a lot of the reason why I wrote this was because people want me to or asking me to mentor them. And I tell them I only want to work with people that are doers, people that are going to be action takers. And usually the first step of becoming successful has to do with a discipline in their life. Mm-hmm. We just talked about this at the last mastermind with Jeremiah, and he needed to lose weight. And one of those biggest disciplines was he had to work out. He worked out for 2 hours a day for 90 days straight. That is crazy.
Yeah.
2 hours a day.
And he got the results.
Amazing. Yeah. But he said it wasn't what he thought was going to change his life that really changed his life. It was the discipline that changed his life. And he said, once I became disciplined in this area of my life, it was so much easier to start becoming more disciplined in other areas of my life. My eating habits became easier because I did this. My relationship with my wife became better because I made this discipline. My relationship with God became better because I made this a discipline. And discipline breeds discipline, and it'll create disciplines in other areas of your life. So my question is, what is your potential in your purpose this year? So just write that down. Write it down. And then number 15 kind of goes into my explanation of 14, right? Mm-hmm. What habit or discipline, whatever you want to say, habit or discipline. So what habit or discipline do you need to start right now, to start today?
What do you need to start today? Make it happen. All right, cool.
Yeah, so
I love it.
This is part 1.
15. That's number 15.
Number 15. Do you want me to read them again
real
quick?
No, the 15, yes. Go ahead and read
so
the 15.
I'm going to read them. I'm going to read the 15 real quick. and then we can close on this podcast. So number 1, why were you placed on this earth? What is your purpose? Number 2, what is holding you back from fulfilling that purpose? Number 3, why is that holding you back? Number 4, are you in debt? And if so, how much? I want you to write that down. Number 5, what does your budget tell you that you need to make to live on each month? Okay, and if you don't have a budget, I need you to create a budget. Number 6, do I give at least 10% of my income to God? Number 7, what other ways are you giving of your time, talents, or treasure to God or others? Are you giving 10% of your increase back? Number 8, what is it that you think you need help with? I think it's good. What do you think you need help with? It's so important to write that down, because you know what? You never find it unless you think about it sometimes. What you focus on expands.
Right.
All right. So next one is, what is your biggest challenge or opportunity in your life or business? Number 10, what are your roles and responsibilities that you have in your life, your ministry, your business, etc., work? All those. What are your roles and responsibilities? Number 11, what are your priorities in these roles and responsibilities? So go through, number them. This is my top responsibility or my top role, and all the way down to the very bottom. If you've got 50, you should have 1 to 50. Make an order. Number 12, what are your big goals in life? Number 13, why are these your big goals in this life? Number 14, what is your potential in your purpose this year? How much of that purpose can you get done this year? So what is your potential in your purpose this year? And number 15, what habit or what discipline do you need to start today?
Ask yourself these questions. So I love it. We're going to be,
Yes,
Tom, I would
this is
assume
awesome.
I would assume that if somebody wanted these questions like in an email, they could
Sure.
email you.
Absolutely. Email me, tolson@goodsuccess.com. That's TOLSON at goodsuccess.com, and I would love to share with you guys these questions. Like I said, we are making this into a workbook. We are going to be doing some other cool things for the Good Success community, which will be free to the mastermind members. We may actually sell this as a standalone product as well. But I just think it's really cool, and I was going through these myself even when I was writing these down, and I was thinking about changes I need to make in my own personal life. So I just think if you will ask yourself these questions, if you'll make it a priority to write them down and answer them for yourself, what you focus on expands, and what you focus on, you can actually help solve those problems and solve those issues and help let you have a better life, help you create your purpose, help you be fulfilled in your purpose. And at the end of the day, it all starts with like the last one I asked. What habit or what discipline do you need to start right now in order to fulfill your purpose? Or or maybe it's a budget. Maybe I need to start budgeting. Maybe it's I need to give 10% back to God. Maybe it's I need to figure out what my purpose is. Whatever that is. Maybe it's I need to start working out. Maybe I need to start eating better. Maybe I need to start saving my money. Maybe whatever it is, what habit do you need to start now? Because of your habits, your time, what you spend your time and money on will determine your destiny and will determine if you fulfill your purpose or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you guys got value out of this and you found these questions to be extremely helpful, you'll want to be back next week for the second part of this episode. So questions,
Part 2.
Yeah, so part 2, but questions 16 through 30. So this whole,
And these are, you thought these were hard hitting, Josh.
Yeah,
I'm
these are
telling
gonna be
you,
good.
these next ones are just as hard hitting. Some of them are easy. You know, some of these are easy, but I've got one that actually, number 19, has 5 different resources and 5 different points for you to actually go out and help yourself with.
Awesome. So if you guys got value out of these first 15 questions, you won't want to miss next week's episode, part 2 of this series. And it's going to be questions 16 through 30. So the entire thing is 30 questions to ask yourself for good success. So like Tom mentioned, just be on the lookout. We might be coming out with a workbook pretty soon, so you won't want to miss that. But Tom, thank you for sharing all that stuff with us. I know that those are questions that I need to ask myself. So if you guys are listening again, make sure you're writing these down. Make sure you're writing the answers down as well, and really thinking hard about your answers to these questions, and it's very important. So 30 questions to ask yourself for good success. Tom, thank you for sharing today, and we look forward to
awesome.
the next round of questions.
I look forward to it as well.
16 through 30.
Yep.
So that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you jumping on and joining us for this Good Success Podcast episode. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or just go to either your iPhone App Store or your Android App Store, the Google Play Store, or the Apple App Store. Download the Good Success app, the official app. So just go to the App Store, search Good Success, and you'll find our logo right there, big and bold on the app logo, and then download it. You can listen to all the podcast episodes on there, and it's going to be awesome for you. So once again, make sure you subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. That'd be absolutely amazing. And then the Good Success Mastermind coming up. The May event is coming up quickly in Miami, Florida. You won't want to miss out on that. So go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind to learn more about it. You'll fill out an application there, and then you'll get on a phone call with Tom so he can talk to you and just feel out if you're a good fit for our culture and if our culture is a good fit for you. So vice versa. It works both ways. So one more time, goodsuccess.com/mastermind. And then the Community Go-Giver event, June 26th through 28th, right here in our office. Tom talked a little bit about his purpose, which is flipping the city of Gary, which is what is going to be talked about at the Community Go-Giver event. So Tom talked a lot about it earlier in this episode. So communitygogiver.com is where you can pick your tickets up today, because we're selling out at 80 tickets. Once we hit 80, we can't take any more. Fire Marshal says no more people can fit in this building. So it's happening in our office in Gary, Indiana. So it's going to be exciting.
It's interesting you just said that, Josh, because really, I don't do the Community Go-Giver event to make money.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make money. It's probably a loser when it comes to making money. It's not about that. It's really because the only reason why I do it, and I've had to struggle with this because it actually does lose us money. I do it because it is part of my purpose. It is part of my big goals. It is part of the things I believe, one of the reasons why I'm here on this earth. And that's what I think everybody ought to have that much of a purpose, that they are going to willing to do things even though like the world would tell them don't do it because it doesn't make you money.
Yeah.
But I believe it's really why God put me on this earth.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited about that, June 26, 27, 28, right here in Gary, Indiana, in our office. So make sure you sign up for it one more time, communitygogiver.com. So that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you jumping on and joining us today. Remember to be a conduit, not a bucket.
Work to have to give.
And we'll catch you on the next one.